So similarly to cars, whenever you pick up a camera brand or a camera model, it has to resonate with you because it has to embody the same vision that you have if you want to express how you see the world around yourself. It took a while for me to start resonating with this Sony A7C Mark II, which I'm using right now to record this episode. So let's discuss this point, which is pivotal to enjoying the way you shoot photos and record videos. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thomas Love here from One and Solid, and today I'm gonna take you through my journey on starting resonating with the camera, because Sony, I didn't pick it up, it happened to me. I was still in Vancouver, I was still using my Leica Q2, and then at a certain point I had a job I need to tackle, but I didn't have the right glass because 28mm from my Leica was not wide enough, and I had to shoot interiors and then eventually also portraits, so I needed a wide glass for the interior of the veterinary clinics I was shooting at, and I needed also more compression to shoot the portraits of the staff and all the doctors. And so a friend of mine started lending me the Sony A7R Mark III, which I loved also much compared to bodies, glasses, so on and so forth. So I started thinking that Sony, I see why most of professionals switch to it, because the AF aid that you get out of the camera, well, with an impaired vision like I am right now, I'm not very able to assess critical focusing anymore if I'm not relying on the autofocus. Of course, I still can do it, but I need to squeeze my eye inside the EVF, adjust the diopters. It takes a while. While with Sony, I just relying on the camera, and that's a great aid for paid gigs because you need to change the camera angle, the settings, the light, so on and so forth, so many times that this is a very great aid. So eventually, when I got my A7C Mark II, I thought, thinking about memories with the A7R III, that it would just resonate with the camera, but it is a complete camera shape and body. Now, the UI, it's brilliant. I never had any trouble getting along with it. The menu, it's quite simple. It's quite intuitive, I have to say, in this latest iteration. I know people used to complain about former versions of the UI for the Sony, but this is not it. And also, I know that people used to complain about the skin tones from former iterations of Sony cameras, but this is not it. This is the latest generation, or at least one of the latest products that has been released, so they fix both the UI and the skin color. Still, I was not used to it. I was not resonating with the camera because, similarly to cars, you might have experienced in your life riding a sedan or a sport car or a Jeep four-wheel drive, or eventually even a van if you need to. It is a completely different experience. Of course, any car might take you from point A to point B, but it's the journey, the real difference, how you do that. And so in certain periods of your life, you might have different needs. I remember when I was driving a Mercedes and shooting with a Leica, that was a completely, totally experience than driving a four-wheel drive Jeep Cherokee V6 and shooting with a Nikon or DSLR compared to mirrorless. And so this is exactly the case and the difference that I am trying to express today, because it took a while, almost 1.5 years, for me in order to shape that camera so that it would resonate with the way I'm using it, at least in this period of my life when I'm shooting a lot of portraits for families, for couples, for wedding proposals, for tourists, so on and so forth. And so this camera, despite it has always been very capable, the camera didn't change. It's my approach to it that eventually evolved in order to have it embody the handling, because I also have big hands, and so I have to consider different aspects every time that I switch to a different camera system, or eventually from camera to a different model. And so compared to the 7R3, which I loved and it was very sturdy in my hands, this is a smaller camera body. And so I purchased it used, and thanks to a friend of mine that made a bargain price, he also sent me the additional grip to screw underneath. It's a GPX2, it's the code if I'm not wrong, and that was supposed to host my pinky, but it was barely enough to host the ring finger. And so it was not really very comfortable, and then underneath it only had one mounting point, which is one screw, so I had to add the additional base plate Arca Swiss mount anytime that I needed to put my camera on the tripod, either to talk to it like that or because I am shooting in studio. And so in the very end, the base plate screwed to the additional grip screwed to the camera was a bit bouncing. Now, not with short glasses, but with longer focal lengths, it was not so sturdy. And so eventually it didn't give me much satisfaction. Reason for which I tried the Nisi bracket, but it didn't get along with my Tamron glass because of the USB port in the glass. And so I had to go for a bigger Nisi version, but that bigger Nisi version didn't have the command to push the release of the lens, and so I had to dismantle the bracket every time I had to change glass, which is not ideal, you can imagine. And so in the very end, the Nisi was a good Arca Swiss mount, and I could change from landscape to portraits without changing the focus point, but it was not it. Now guys, why am I talking about the mounting and the grip? Because this camera body is so compact that in the very end, the way I handle it is via the glass and the grip, which are two aspects that took me more than 1 year to figure out. Now, if you follow the channel for a while, you know that I normally go for Zeiss glasses, reason for which I started my journey with this Sony with the 55mm f1.8, only to discover that it was too narrow for Europe and it was not flexible enough. And so I switched to the 24-70 f4, always from Zeiss. Still, I had some limitation. It was not fast enough for the portraits job that I was doing and I'm still doing. And so I eventually landed on the Tamron 28-75, but that was, for how compact that zoom glass is, it was still too big for me to manage properly, because it's a small camera body with a big glass, and so it was very front heavy, so it was not comfortable to take around, reason for which, to go around and casual shooting street photography, I got myself the Sigma 45mm. There was a compact glass, super lightweight, but still it didn't satisfy me to the fullest, and so it took a while to land to this Sony 24-50 G glass. It's not the G Master, it's a G glass. Why do I like this glass and why do I like it mounted on my camera? Because when it is collapsed, it's at 50mm, which is the focal length that I use 95% of the times. And then, of course, if I need to go wider, I can zoom out, so extend the glass frontally, and when it's extended, it gets to 24mm, which is enough for me for vlogging, because I will hold it at arm distance, so it's wide enough even with the cropping for the dynamic active state. And so basically, this is a prime glass. I use it as a prime glass. I always use a prime glass in my life, most of the times, but if needs come, then I can extend it and go wider. So this is one aspect. So finally, I found out which glass is the perfectly matching that camera for my current needs, and it's the 24-50 f2.8 G glass. The second aspect is that also the handling of the camera. Well, I need some peace of mind, because maybe I need to add the microphone, and it is the case because I'm recording a video right now, or maybe I need to add the camera flash or the trigger and have an off-body camera flash. So I need some mounting points and I need the additional grip, reason for which it took a while. I mentioned the Sony grip, I mentioned the Nisi grip. Eventually, I landed and I am now finally satisfied on the Smallrig cage. Now, the Smallrig cage, it's a great help if you want to record videos because you can add the upper handle, the side handle, the SSD mount, the microphones, the monitor. You can add many things. You have the NASA handle on the left, you have the screws on the top, you have the screws on the side, you have other screws underneath. You can change the inclination from landscape to portrait. You can do whatever you want because you have also many mounting points, and it is stable and sturdy enough because it has two mounting points to connect to the camera. So the Sony grip only had one screw underneath and a little plastic pin that went inside the camera to avoid the rotation. That's fine. It was not so stable. So this has one screw underneath and then another one inside the eye where we normally mount the camera strap. The camera strap, I was normally using the same thing that I was using on my Leica Q2. That was the Artisan and Artist. It's a 90 centimeter eye-to-eye strap that I was placing inside the camera strap eye on the camera without those triangles that Sony gives you that are just bouncing and thinning around, and I don't like them. But then eventually I have to remove it because one of those two eyes are for the screw for mounting the cage, and so I'm back to the original Sony strap, which is textile on the metal of the cage, so it's ideal for me. If you know me, you know that I'm a very simple guy. I don't want to add too many things or layering my camera too much. I don't like it rigged. I like it very, very simple. And so in this configuration, I will showcase it to you because it's just beautiful. Not as much as it was beautiful in my Leica Q2, but still, it's a beautiful camera. It's a compact camera, and for now I have peace of mind because I finally found the right setup. So please share the joy with me. I finally found the right setup in order to shoot the portraits that I normally shoot, the street photography that I normally shoot with this camera, and it is also as manageable as possible with this additional Arca Suite base plate, which is integrated into the Smallrig cage. I will put the link down below, guys. If you don't know Smallrig, I know Smallrig, sorry, there are so many brands that produce cages and additional grips for plenty of cameras. I don't know why. I was never a fanboy, but this Smallrig cage paired to my a7c Mark II, I think it's the ideal solution, at least for me, at least for now, at least for my current needs. So please let me know down here in the comments if you have any question about the rig, the cage, the glass, the camera. And with that, I hope you got some value out of this video. If you did, please remember to like it, share it on your social media, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any videos to come, and I guess I will see you later. Thank you. Bye-bye. And by the way, I picked up the festive background because by the time you're watching this episode, I will be enjoying some warm temperatures on the Red Sea in Egypt. So happy holidays, guys. Enjoy your Christmas vacations.